We can speak now to Nazir Afzal, who's former Association of Police and Crime Commissioners Chief Executive. Good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Victoria.
Also with me, we have Zubeda Limbada, who is Director of Counter-Extremism Group ConnectFutures. Hello to you, Zubeda.
Hi.
And we have Shabnam Nassimi, who's a former Prevent officer who worked with people vulnerable to radicalisation. Hello, thank you for coming on the programme. Nazir Afzal, first of all, you will have heard Theresa May, who we're expecting to hear from, by the way, any moment now, so we will cross to her as soon as she begins to speak. But you will have heard her yesterday saying we've got to have embarrassing and difficult conversations to counter the evil ideology of the kind of people who attacked Borough Market, London Bridge on Saturday night. What do you think she means by that?
I think that, well, I don't know what she means. We'll hear that shortly. But I think there is a strong case for saying that those conversations that are happening, and they are happening all over the country, need to be reinforced. People perhaps have become a bit complacent. It's always the case that these individuals that carried out these attacks in Manchester, where I live, or London, where I work, don't represent Islam. In fact, they represent Islam in the same way that KKK, with their burning crosses, represent Christianity. But they live...
So what are the conversations? Give me an example of an embarrassing and difficult conversation.
That, for example, you shouldn't be listening to certain individuals who don't want you to engage with your local communities. For example, there are a lot of Islamists that have been going around the country the last 2 weeks telling people not to vote because they think democracy somehow is against their religion. Those people need to be told to get out of the mosques, get out of the places of worship, get out of the communities, and be told that they have no place as far as we are in terms of the Britain that we love and we want to be part of.
And whose job is it to say, get out of the mosque?
The people within the mosque, and they are doing it up and down the country. I know they've been doing it certainly in Manchester. I don't know about London, but I think the reality is that this is something the communities themselves need to take ownership of, and they have done, but they can't simply turn around and rely upon the leaders. And one of the things I've made the point of, Victoria, is that too often the state, the authorities, always engage with so-called community leaders. The white community, the young Muslims, most Muslims are under 25, female, and yet somehow their voices are heard, but the young people, their voices aren't heard. I think we need to work differently now. We need to work with women's groups, we need to work with young people. Ultimately, that's how we tackle this issue going forward. But we've got to somehow isolate, marginalise those people who think that just simply by going to a meeting, they've done their bit.
Okay. Zubeda, you've heard what Nazir was saying. What do you think needs to be done? I mean, it's a huge question. It's really complex. It's multifaceted. But where do you begin?
I think you need to start with the question of building trust and confidence, something that's practical. Theresa May said, as you said, about having difficult and embarrassing conversations, and I welcome that. However, Prevent has, the government's counter-terrorism strategy has been in place since 2007. And the things where the conversations aren't happening, because yes, it is as simple as that, where the government needs to engage with wider communities, it needs to build trust and confidence, because sometimes the perception with a community is that the Prevent strategy is about spying on the Muslim community, and talking to people and building trust will be essential ingredients.
Okay. I mean, it is one unnamed friend of one of the attackers claimed to have called the anti-terrorism hotline about one of the individuals that carried out the attack on Saturday night. Somebody who was friends with the Manchester bomber claimed to have called the anti-terrorism hotline, or certainly called authorities to report the fact that there was something wrong and he was justifying all sorts of, jihadi attacks. So there is some trust there, but that information doesn't appear to be being acted upon.
Yes, that's right. I think the issue that we're having is that we're not engaging as much with the community. Their voices need to be heard. We need to ensure that the right support is provided at the right time. And community engagement is key. One of the ways that Prevent is doing this at the moment is grassroots local community work, ensuring that the communities that are at the heart of Prevent, that they address those vulnerabilities and those issues within that relevant community.
And when you say vulnerabilities, you're talking about vulnerable to extremism, vulnerable
yes, that's
to
right.
radicalisation.
Yes,
so just tell me, in practical terms, what somebody like yourself goes into an area and does what?
Well, the vulnerabilities that these people normally hold are firstly a lack of identity sort of notion, understanding where they come from, not being able to integrate.
How do you reach them? They're not going to come to you.
No.
They're online, being radicalised.
Let me give a practical example.
Yeah.
Recently, I was in a secondary school, and I was talking about extremism and how it happens. And 3 young school children came up to me after the session, and they said it was really important, it was really insightful, but that their parents had said to them that actually don't talk about don't talk about extremism at school because you could potentially be arrested.
Right.
So I think there's a sense of fear that's there in terms of what it means to be engaged. When we go into school, for example, we talk about safe spaces. Teachers aren't always sure because of confidence issues about talking about radicalisation. So again, it might be basics. How does extremism happen? When we go, we talk about how extremism happens both face-to-face and online, so practically, because again, where people are at in terms of practically knowing what the recruitment methods are and what they can do needs to be better understood. And I think the government has got to engage beyond just a minority of communities, particularly with young people and with women.
Okay, particularly with women. Okay, just pick up on that point if you would. Briefly.
Yes, of course. Like I said, community engagement with young people, like Nazir mentioned, it's key. Women are the core of the family. They're the ones we need to work with to ensure that awareness around radicalisation, the threat that their children face is identified.
Thank you. I'm going to pause it there, but thank you very much for your time. Really appreciate it. Thank you. Zubeda Limbada, thank you. Director of Counter-Extremism Group ConnectFutures. Shabnam Nassimi, thank you. Former Prevent Officer. And thank you too to Nazir Afzal, former Association of Police and Crime Commissioners Chief Executive. Good morning. It's 10.